Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa will lead Freedom Day celebrations in Bloemfontein. It is exactly 24 years since South Africa's first democratic elections. This year's celebrations recognize the roles that Nelson Mandela and Albertina Sisulu played in the struggle for freedom. eNCA's Xoli Mngambi is in Bloemfontein for us. He joins us now live. Xoli, 4 months, 128 or so days since Ramaphosa took the reins as president. Is it a push too far to say a similar euphoria to what we saw back in 1994, what we're now calling Ramaphoria, took hold as he promised another new dawn for the country?
Well, that has been the mantra of the new president, Cyril Ramaphosa. Essentially, the president saying that this is the time for optimism in the country, and that is why he, among other issues that he's trying to push right now, is for this economy of South Africa to start pumping, Michelle. And the only way that he says that is going to be done is by ensuring that investment is injected into the economy so that people can start having jobs. And speaking about jobs, Michelle, in the crowd that is making the most noise behind me here is a placard that is written "No jobs," and then there is 2019. I've not read the full thing because I'm too far, but it just tells you a story already, Michelle, that people are yearning for jobs, Michelle, and they know that once they get those jobs, then they can somehow start enjoying the fruits of what many are saying is this democracy that we saw being ushered in 1994. Michelle, by the way, the theme here today is towards the full realization of our freedom through radical socio-economic transformation. And with those words, Michelle, I'm going to turn now to the Minister of Arts and Culture, and that's Nathi Mthethwa, who is also going to be overseeing proceedings here. Minister, I was just talking to my colleague here about that placard that is behind us. It reads "No jobs," and then there's 2019. I think you can imagine, you can make out in your own way what those people are trying to communicate, and link that to the theme of this particular event here today, towards the realization of our full freedoms through radical economic transformation. Is there much to celebrate, therefore, Minister?
Well, there is much to celebrate because South Africa is a different country now. Before 1994, it was another planet. Today, you have people moving towards a better life for all, starting from ordinary South Africans who were nobody before in the system of apartheid. The government's program focusing specifically on meeting the basic needs of people and understanding that it's its own task to do that, and ensuring that where we are now 24 years later, we realize that the second phase of the struggle has to kick in. The theme itself talks to what you have just raised about the jobs. But even before the theme, the president has emphasized the point that this coming period, we are going to ensure that as government in South Africa, we create 1 million job opportunities. And how is that going to be happening? All the sectors are going to be hard at work to ensure that we respond to the board we are talking about, but generally respond to the radical socio-economic transformation in practice.
Minister, you talk about meeting the basic needs of the people of our country. Northwest, it's a province not too far from where we are in the Free State. It's been plagued by issues of corruption. The communities there, up in arms, very clear that the person responsible for this has got to be moved out. How are you able to convince those people that indeed their basic needs are going to be met if you can't even listen to them asking for a simple thing, that move out this person that we think is corrupt?
It's an important matter we are raising, serious matter, though it's an anecdote from your side, because we are talking about what has happened since 1994. That includes Northwest, by the way. You cannot, nobody can, even the West-thinking South African, cannot say that the basic needs of our people have not been met. They have been met, and as you know that when you meet this need for the people, another arises. It's an ongoing task of government, as you know, that it's towards social progress. It's that road which is always under construction. From time to time, there will be issues. It's not only Northwest. There will be one other province where people are raising, just the other day, Kiskama Hook, in Gauteng, in KZN, there will be those issues. What becomes important is that as the government, we've got to listen to what people say and continuously engage with them so that together with them we find solution in whatever challenge we have.
But Minister, you belong to the governing party. You are saying here today, very important, that we've got to listen to our people. You're not listening. Why is Supra Maumapilo still there?
No.
You're not listening.
You see, you are reducing what the face is about to a province, which is important. It's not true that the government is not listening.
Why is Supra Maumapilo in the position?
The President of the Republic of South Africa had to leave the international engagement and come to South Africa and come to that province and sit and listen to the leadership, including Mahumapelo himself, because he has to make his point. Yesterday, we're meeting the broader society, listening to the people. There's no such thing as not listening, because if we're not listening, we're going to be indifferent and not even go there and talk to the people.
All right. Minister, talk to me about what, in your view, is happening in our country if, when people protest, a key feature of that protest is looting. Does that tell you that people are hungry on the ground? I think the answer you're going to argue is yes, because they are hungry, and so that's why they perhaps do what they do. But add to that, Minister, here's my central question here. It's about whether or not, Minister, we are at a stage now where the country is reaping the fruits of the seed of corruption that has been plowed over many years, in particular the last couple of years of, if you like, the Zuma presidency. I'm not going to confine it just to his presidency, the issue of corruption, because the arms deal preceded him, although it does involve him somehow. The important thing here, Minister, is that is the country of South Africa experiencing or reaping the rewards of the corruption that has been sown in this country? And that's why people are basically fed up.
Well, firstly, to me it seems like you justify some anarchy. It's anarchy when people go out, make a genuine point, but decide not only to loot, but to use violence to burn down property and so on. We must condemn that. We must condemn where there is corruption, and we have in this country necessary instruments to deal with that. The issue of corruption has been raised over a period of time against the government, against the private sector. What we are saying, and what we have not heard you actually raising, is what the corporate sector's depth of corruption has been. It's not a justification of the public sphere, which is government and so on. Corruption is corruption. I don't even worry that it's an insurmountable task, because we have processes and we have been dealing with corruption and will continue to deal with corruption. What we should do right now is that the focus of our society Firstly, we should inject hope in our society. Inject hope through ensuring that that which form basis of this radical socio-economic transformation is realized. And one of those is the land. One of those is skilling our people, is through education. And you know that government over a period of time has prioritized education as an apex priority of the government itself. That if you have those building blocks, you are sure to have a better life, a better society going forward.
Minister, moving on from corruption, racial relations in the country. I think you'll agree that they are at an all-time low. We have just had Vicky Mombek convicted for what would be called hate speech or, hate crimes. Basically, she is a now declared racist. She's a convicted racist. You then have the MEC of Education in Gauteng have an effigy of him hung up with a noose around its neck on a tree next to the Department of Basic Education. Are we failing at the level of integrating society?
No, not at all, not at all. We can't be failing. Look, South Africa is a nascent democracy. Compare us with the established democracies, say Europe. What is happening currently in Europe in relation to African people? What is happening in the US? All hundreds of years of democracies in the world. No, we're not failing. What we are doing, because we are a 24-year-old democracy. When we voted for freedom in 1994, we were inheriting a state without a nation. And that state was an apartheid state, which made it a point that you do not have a nation in South Africa, you have ethnic groups. There was no nation to talk about before 1994. That is why from 1994, we've been talking and continue talking about nation building, because we must build a nation. And in that process, we have a huge problem, because you have people, those people who supported apartheid for 50 years did not perish after 1994. They are still with us. What they've done is to ensure that racism is implemented covertly. So we've got to fight racism without taking our eye off the ball, which is building a united non-racial South Africa. Because our agenda is not an anti-racist agenda. We'll deal with racism, but our agenda is to build a non-racial South Africa. So those racists, as and when they come as obstacles, you deal with them as Mombek. And by the way, what you see with Mombek is going to be what is going to define South Africa going forward, because as government we are finalizing the regulation of the hate speech and ensuring that racist in South Africa and racism is penalized accordingly.
Minister, the worry here, it would appear that we're somewhat sitting on some kind of powder keg. I'm not sure if I'm being alarmist about it, but if it would seem that there are these incidents happening every now and then it becomes what I would call shameful when you have a black person calling another a kafir, and they are now taking each other to court. What is that? What do you call that?
No, we've always said, and we are saying even now, a call to society, that if there is anything, South Africans are tolerant people, if there is anything we have to be intolerant about, are those different intolerances. It's racism, it's anti-foreigner sentiment, it's tribalism, which may rear its head from time to time, it's sexism in our society. All those have to be fought. With all the vigor we have, we mobilized and organized our people in the past against racism. We should continue even now, mobilize the masses of the people against racism, whilst at the same time engaging and educating even those racists who think that 1994 was a curse to them. To say to them, no, it's a blessing, because you cannot continue to live in comfort when the majority of people are suffering, when you oppress and when you are racist against people. Whether that is happening amongst Africans, whether it's happening between black and white, it doesn't matter. Any intolerance. You'll remember that in 2000, the International Conference Against Racism and Other Intolerances was making this very point, that humanity has to frown upon and even fight against all such intolerances. Because today we are talking about racism. Tomorrow you see the emergence of the incidents of sexism. All of them, we should say, they are not acceptable, and government will do everything in its power to regulate that particular behavior.
Right, thank you very much for your time. We'll have to leave it there for the time being. Thank you very much, Minister Nathi Mthethwa, the Minister of Arts and Culture here in the country. Michelle, well, that's where we're going to leave it for the moment. Of course, just a reminder that that all-important speech from President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivered at around 12 o'clock.
Yeah, and we will bring it to you live right here on The Lead on eNCA. That was eNCA's Xoli Mngambi live to us from Bloemfontein. More crossings from him throughout the day on this Freedom Day.